When the world feels like it's closing in, what's your gut reaction? For most of us, it's to build a wall, to retreat. But what if that's the single most dangerous thing you could possibly do? Today, we're diving deep into Law 18 from Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. Do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous.
It just makes sense, right? When you feel threatened, the instinct is to pull back, lock the doors, and find safety inside your own fortress. It feels like the smart, logical move. But here's the twist. This law argues that our instincts are dead wrong. Those very walls you build to keep danger out, they become the walls of your own prison, and they cut you off from the one thing you absolutely need to survive and thrive: good information. And this gets us to what Greene calls the fortress fallacy. It's this powerful illusion that retreating is the same as being safe. But in reality, when you isolate yourself, you actually make yourself a huge, easy-to-hit target. To really see just how bad this can get, we got to look at one of history's most powerful and most paranoid leaders.
An emperor's invisible prison.
Let's talk about Qin Shi Huangdi, the very first emperor of China. This guy was a true giant of history. He didn't just rule, he literally forged a nation. He took all these warring kingdoms, smashed them together, consolidated the Great Wall, and unified the whole country. At his peak, there was probably no one on the planet with more power.
But all that power made him paranoid. He was terrified of assassins, so he built himself this massive palace complex. A fortress on an epic scale. It had 270 different pavilions, all connected by secret underground tunnels so he could move around without anyone ever seeing him.
And his security measures got, well, totally extreme. He would sleep in a different room every single night. If you so much as accidentally saw him, you were executed. Instantly. His exact location was a secret known only to a tiny inner circle. He basically became a ghost in his own kingdom. And here is the fatal flaw in that whole plan. While the emperor was hiding from imaginary threats, the real world just kept moving. His scheming ministers started running the show, making decisions in his name, but really for their own gain. The very power he was trying to protect just evaporated because he wasn't there to wield it.
And the ending? It's as grim as you'd imagine. He died alone while on a trip, probably poisoned by those same ministers. And to hide his death from the people, they carted his body back to the capital, using carts of salted fish to cover up the smell of his rotting corpse. The most powerful man on earth died a prisoner of his own fear.
Okay, so if the fortress is a death trap, what's the alternative? Well, let's flip the script and look at a ruler who did the exact opposite. King Louis XIV of France. He knew that real power isn't about hiding. It's about being the absolute center of everyone's universe. See, Louis XIV had lived through a nasty civil war started by powerful nobles. So when he built his incredible palace at Versailles, it wasn't a place to hide. Oh no, it was a gilded cage. It was a tool of control designed to force every important person in France to come live with him right where he could see them. And this radical openness was the whole point. Forget privacy. Every single morning in a ceremony called the Lever, more than 100 people would literally pack into his bedroom just to watch him wake up and get dressed. His life was one big public performance, and that constant presence was his power. The very architecture of Versailles was built to destroy isolation. Every room connected to another. Every hallway was a public space. Nothing and nobody went unnoticed by the king, who was always circulating, always watching, taking mental notes of who was there and who wasn't. And the consequence for not being there? It was absolute. If some noble who never showed up at court asked for a promotion or a favor, Louis would just say, "I do not know him." And that was it. Your career, your influence, gone. To be out of the king's sight was to be powerless. So you've got two incredibly powerful leaders with two completely opposite strategies. One builds a fortress and dies alone. The other builds an open court and has one of the longest reigns in history. So what's really going on here? Why is being out there life and hiding away death?
Well, let's just look at it side by side. Isolation starves you of information, the lifeblood of power. It makes you a big, stationary target, and it breeds paranoia. You lose all perspective. But circulation, it's the opposite. It floods you with valuable intelligence. It shields you inside the crowd. It helps you build alliances, and it keeps you nimble.
And hey, this isn't some new idea. Centuries ago, Machiavelli basically said that building fortresses is always a mistake. He argued a ruler's real strength isn't in stone walls. It's in their connections and the goodwill of the people around them. And this law isn't just for kings. Take the artist Pontormo. He wanted to paint his great masterpiece, but he was so afraid someone would steal his ideas that he walled himself up inside a chapel for 11 years. He got obsessed with tiny details but completely lost the big picture. The final painting was a disaster, a tangled, ugly mess. His isolation didn't protect his creativity, it destroyed it.
So, does that mean you should never pull back? Is there any time for retreat? Let's talk about the one exception to the rule and why it's so dangerous.
Okay, so Green does acknowledge there's one thing that being constantly social makes really difficult, and that's deep, focused thought. Sometimes a temporary strategic retreat can give you perspective. I mean, Machiavelli himself only wrote The Prince after he was forced into exile, away from the day-to-day politics.
But, and this is a huge but, you have to be incredibly careful. Isolation can warp your thinking. You can start to lose touch with reality, with your own limits, and the longer you stay away, the harder it is to ever get back in the game. It's like quicksand. You use it only when you have to, and for as little time as possible.
So, the crucial takeaway here is to change your mindset. Instead of looking for a fortress to hide in, start seeing the world as a giant Versailles, a massive palace of interconnected rooms. Your goal is to be mobile, to be permeable, to constantly be mingling and moving between different people and ideas.
Because ultimately, your greatest protection isn't a wall, it's your own momentum. When you're always on the move, socially and intellectually, you become a swift-moving target. It's impossible for any hunter, any enemy, any rival to ever get a clean shot. Safety isn't found in being still, it's found in constant circulation.
And that leaves us with one final big question. In our world today, the fortresses aren't usually made of stone, are they? They're made of social media bubbles, of news feeds that only tell us what we want to hear, of social circles that never change. So you have to ask yourself, what invisible fortresses are you building right now, and what dangers are you failing to see from the inside?